Make sure you guys hit the subscribe button if you guys are enjoying the content that we're throwing up. And make sure you guys hit the like button if you enjoy the video. And yeah, let's begin. All right, what's going on, guys? This is Rob. I've got stuff that I got to do today. I have an amazing day today, which, by the way, make sure you guys come over to twitch.tv/eatcodes tonight. Myself and Mariah are going to be playing Fall Guys and doing drinking games. We're literally probably going to get drunk on stream, but it's going to be amazing. But we're picking back up with Secret Wars, right? We're picking back up with Secret Wars, and we're near the end. We are on issue number 8, and there are 9 issues. I wish there'd been 12, but such as it is, we only have 9. So in the last video, we talked about how this massive battle at Doomstadt, at the realm of God King Doom, was basically leading to the fall of everything, right? The collapse of Doomguard. And the whole point behind this was, or at least one of the major things that happened here, is you had the arrival of Maestro and his world breakers, right? Which was more than enough to turn the tide of battle. But the other thing that we had going on here, and I'm not entirely sure that we covered this, was Thanos traveling to the shield. Now, we did cover the segment where Thanos got to the shield, but once he was there, he actually ended up having a conversation with the face of Ben Grimm, where we basically learned that the Thing was the shield that protected Battleworld from all the other threats that were out there, right? The Annihilation Horde, Marvel Zombies, all that kind of stuff. And the way this played out was that Thanos had really kind of told Ben Grimm, like, you've been lied to this whole time. That in another universe, in another time and place, long before the creation of Battleworld, that there was existence. There were things that were there. That you were told this has always been this way by God King Doom, and that was a falsehood. More so than that, in the world before this, the reality before all of this, you were a hero. Like, you were a superhero, right? And so essentially it's, you've been lied to this whole time. Are you going to take that sitting down, or are you going to stand up? And it was Thanos playing on the nature of Ben Grimm. Ben Grimm, to a degree, is a very prideful character, but more so than that, he believes in doing what's right. And if God King Doom is in fact a false king and he's ruling Battleworld under false pretenses, then Thing basically believes in standing up to that, right? He believes in confronting God King Doom and bringing that to an end. Also because God King Doom lied when he said that his family was dead. In fact, they're all alive, all that kind of stuff. But the reality of this is that Ben Grimm shows up here and immediately attacks Maestro, right? Immediately starts going to town on Maestro, and in doing so, basically crushes the ship and seems to destroy Maestro in the process. Now, do I believe that Ben Grimm could kill the Maestro? No. And just because you're of a certain size does not mean that your strength increases proportionally, right? I guess we can kind of assume that it does with Ben Grimm, and keep in mind, this is an alternate version of the Thing, right? This is not the main Marvel Universe version of his character, so it could be that he's stronger than Maestro, right? Again, that's what you're dealing with when it comes to alternate reality characters whose powers aren't fully fleshed out, right? We're kind of left to believe that he's similar, but we can kind of guess and make our own call. But the other part of that is that there's a massive explosion that takes place. And initially, the response of Black Swan is that the rebels have basically breached the castle. But the response of Doom is no, right? We would know if the lowest levels have been breached. That must have been something else. And so what you end up getting is basically Black Swan, who kind of goes to investigate. And you've got Valeria Richards, you know, who's kind of like, okay, you know, like, there's not a whole lot we can do here, right? Like, basically, the whole realm of Battleworld is essentially falling in this massive conflict. But the next thing that happens is you have Terrax the Enlightened, who, if you guys recall, during Jonathan Hickman's Avengers and New Avengers, was the Herald of Galactus in an alternate reality. And when he sees this version of Galactus standing here, he initially approaches him and says, hey, like, you know, in an alternate reality, I was your herald, I will be your herald again. And then he's killed by Galactus. And we end up finding out this isn't really Galactus as we know him. Instead, it's basically Franklin Richards using him as a kind of puppet. And we also sort of always knew that, but it is really the most pure display of the power of Franklin, right? We saw that during Hickman's Fantastic Four, that Franklin Richards as an adult resurrected Galactus from the dead. It only makes sense to kind of continue the Jonathan Hickman theme of writing that Franklin Richards would basically take over Galactus, he would control him and use him for whatever his own ends are. Now, the reality of this is it doesn't really seem to be Galactus as we know him. It's really more of him just kind of in almost kind of like a dead state, so to speak, and Franklin just using him in that way. But regardless, there's a massive battle that takes place between Franklin and Galactus here, or really just Franklin and Ben Grimm, and you kind of get this thing where once Franklin basically reveals the fact that he is in effect the son of God King Doom, that's when, you know, Ben Grimm begins to pick up like, okay, wait a minute, so you're Susie's kid, right? And he's like, yeah. It's like, so you're telling me that Susan Storm married Dr. Doom and they had kids together? And the response of Franklin is, yeah. And the issue is that Ben Grimm can't attack Franklin, right? He's his nephew. He's like, I'm not going to kill you. Like, I'm not going to kill you here. I can't kill my own family. So you do whatever it is that you have to do. And Franklin Richards does that. He literally blows Ben Grimm apart, right? He kills Ben Grimm on the spot, which was nuts when it happened. It was like, geez, everything is quite literally collapsing. The other thing that goes on here, and it's kind of a small little moment here, is of course you have the Maker and you have Reed Richards from the main Marvel Universe, who basically locate the source of Doctor Doom's power thanks to the efforts of Peter Parker and Miles Morales, and then essentially travel to that location, leaving Peter Quill behind in order to keep an eye on the ship, right? To basically make sure that nobody takes the ship. But the other thing that goes on is there's this massive explosion, right? This kind of, huge boom that takes place, and that's when Doom realizes, here they come, right? Because with Ben Grimm basically abandoning his role of the Shield, it leaves a gaping hole, right? And Doom knew that from that hole would come like the Annihilation Horde or something like that, and that's exactly what happens. The Annihilation Horde comes pouring in, all of whom are led by Thanos. And so with that happening, you basically have Valeria who tells her mom, come with me, right? Like, it's important that you understand the bigger picture here. We've been lied to for a long time. You need to really understand what's going on here with Doctor Doom. The other part of this is probably one of the coolest moments in the whole story. You pick back up with Peter Quill, right? And you have Black Swan who shows up here to confront Peter Quill, where he's kind of looking at the ship, making sure that it's all in good working order. She's like, what are you doing? He spots her and it's like, what are you doing? And she's like, I'm serving my God, right? Destroying those who stand against him. And so it becomes obvious right off the bat, the two of them are going to fight. And Peter Quill does what he always does, which is kind of goof off and joke around, that kind of a thing. He kind of tells her, like, do not come back here. Like, do not come here. If you do, like, you're going to fall, right? I'm not the kind of guy who deals with like idle threats. I'm not the kind of guy who's kind of goes along with that sort of stuff. Like, I'm a genuine tough guy, right? The next scene, he goes flying through a wall and he's like, my spleen. And so with that being the case, he's like, okay, he starts rifling through, the various parts of him. And he's like, I'm trying to find, I can't find this thing. Like, where is this thing? And ultimately ends up locating it. And so he tells, this thing that he's looking for, he tells Black Swan, like, back off. Like, if you don't, I will use this. And she's like, what is this, some kind of idle threat? Like a man with nothing left to lose thinks he can intimidate me with some false threat. And he's like, okay, just remember, I told you so. And he takes this little twig and he throws it into the world tree, right? He says, say hello to my little friend. And he throws it into the world tree. And then the world tree basically turns into Groot. Groot grows to this monumental size and just explodes out of Castle Doom. And it's like, oh my God, right? From there, you pick up with Susan and Valeria, who are going to the location of Doctor Doom's power, only to meet with like Reed Richards from the main Marvel Universe and like the Maker. And Reed is just kind of like, hello, Susan, kind of dismissive to a degree. But then you jump from them and you pick up with Thanos, right? And this is probably the coolest moment in the whole story, right? Thanos shows up, like once God King Doom arrives on the scene, Thanos shows up and is like, enough. And that's when God King Doom greets Thanos. And he asks him, he says like, you brought down the wall, you pierced the shield, you did all this so carefully and costly, but for what, right? For this, like to bring down Battleworld, is that really what it was? Like, do you want to be a Baron of the Waste to rule the Annihilation Horde? If that's what you want to do, then do that, right? I will permit you to keep the Horde, and basically it's an embodiment of my goodwill, right? I'm presenting you with a gift. And Thanos is offended. He's like, you present me with a gift? Like, you forget I was a god once, right? The Infinity Gauntlet gave me that power. And when I was a god, I did not use those powers as a mortal would, as you have, saving what you can. No, I wielded them as a god should, in judgment of all living things. And that's when he calls Doom out. He's like, you're a pretender. You're a weak god, right? This power controls you. You do not control this power. It is you who should bow to me. Dr. Doom is like, but do you have an Infinity Gauntlet right now? And the response of Thanos is no, but I'm still Thanos, the Mad Titan, the Great Tyrant, and for you, that will be enough. Doom plunges his hand into the heart of Thanos and just incinerates him. And he's like, it looks like that's not true. And so then he in turn looks to Annihilus and he's like, you owe me for this. You allied yourself with Thanos with the intention of coming here and bringing down my empire. I am owed penance for this. And so there are heretics attacking my castle. You will destroy them. Like, your Annihilation Horde will travel to this location and it will destroy them. Now, with the Incredible Hulks, with the World Breakers just kind of lambasting everything, Groot making his way towards Galactus, and all this pandemonium happening, suddenly the Siege Courageous opens. And it's just kind of like, okay, like something's coming through. And then that's when all these zombies start pouring out and Doom's like, crap, like it's what he didn't account for, right? Like, these zombies come pouring through and there's so many of them and they are for the most part technically immortal. There's no real way to kill them. They take over these Incredible Hulks like that, right? Like, I mean, literally they all start falling before the Hulks. Doom's doing what he can, blasting them with his power and trying to destroy as many of them as he can. And then suddenly you have Black Panther who shows up, comes through the Siege Courageous with the Infinity Gauntlet and says, Doom, your reign is over and it ends with us. Black Panther with the Infinity Gauntlet versus God King Doom. With that being said, guys, we're gonna bring this video to an end. If you are new here to Comics Explained, make sure you guys hit the sub button to become part of the Rob Corps. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you drop a like, and I will catch you all later. Peace.